So one thing I wanted to address today, since I was getting multiple questions regarding a resume and pretty much not getting responses, submitting resumes, not hearing back from employers, or reaching out directly to recruiters, and they're just not hearing anything back. And one thing I do want to address is pretty much your resume is your first call of action. It's your first line of defense. This is the first thing employers see. Before you can talk about how great you are, how much you can impact their organization, you must somehow, shape, or form be able to attract them with your marketing document, in this case would be your resume. Just a quick overview of Career Innovations. If anyone, if this is your first time hearing about us, we are an executive search firm. Today's quote is, "The meaning of life is to find your gift. The purpose of life is to give it away." And I actually put this on my signature in my email, because I really do think that once you find out what you love to do, this is something that you won't mind giving away and sharing to others. And this is one of the reasons why we do job seeker training and workshop, is to help candidates that we somehow can't place for whatever reason. Maybe we don't have a position for you, maybe we're not working for an employer that's requesting your skill set, and maybe various reasons why we just can't get your resume in front of an employer, but we still want to offer some type of resource in addition to our recruiting. And this is why we do the workshops. We also do referral and retention workshops for employers. We do resume and cover letter edits. If you just take a look at our website, you definitely can see the other services that we do offer as well. I wanted to share this. This is actually one of my mentors shared this with the BDPA. And if you don't know, one of my niches is IT. I also do healthcare informatics, sales and marketing, human resources as well. But one of my niches is IT, and he did a great graph, or a pie graph, about what employers are looking for, what's the key to success, and he actually put, and I told him I was going to share this in our Q&A session. His name is Julius Clark. He's with the BDPA, and I'm actually for this year, 2014 and 2015 year, I'm actually the VP of professional services or professional development for the BDPA. And he pretty much used the pie method. And the pie method is your performance, which your employers look at your day-to-day quality of work, your image, your personal brand, do others feel you offer value, and 3 would be what others know about you inside and outside your organization, which would be your exposure. And I said, you know what, Julius, this wouldn't just be applied to the cybersecurity and IT fields. This in general is what employers look at. They want to look at your performance. They're trying to see, okay, what have you done for past employers? What are you doing now? And what does the quality of work look like to you? What have you done, and what can you bring to the table? They also want to know what everyone thinks of you. What type of value are you going to bring to the organization? And as you can see, it's not really your performance. They do take a look at that, but they also look at your exposure. What do other people say about you inside your organization and outside your organization? And that's why many people get their next opportunity solely off a word of mouth. Hey, know this guy, he's awesome, you should take a look at him. And I'm pretty sure people on the line know someone that has gotten a job just off a great referral. That's when they look at what are other people saying about you, what are other people saying about your work ethic, your performance, and they really take that and they really look into that. And people put their word in their pretty much their they put their word and their credibility on the line when they refer someone. So they really do take to heart what other people say, because when they bring someone into their organization, guess what? You're representing them as well. You're representing their brand, and they want to make sure they're going to get someone in there that's going to be a positive influence and also a positive brand for them. So I really thought I wanted to share this with this particular crowd, because I don't think it's just applies to IT. I think this applies to everyone, and I think this is something that you should definitely take a look at. First thing we're going to talk about today on the agenda is pretty much back to the basics. Like I said, I'm getting a lot of questions regarding resume writing, cover letter, and pretty much they're they're asked different ways, but the answer's the same, if you understand that. So I want to actually go back to the basics. I want to talk about things that really are concrete, no matter what industry you're in, no matter what type of job you're looking for, whether it's entry level, whether it's I'm making a career move, whether you are a professional, you've been in the industry for 15 or 20 years. Sometimes you have to get back to the basics to move forward. The next thing we're going to talk about is the 5 strategies I really want you to include when actually drafting your resume. And you should ask yourself this when your resume is complete and you're submitting it to employers. Next thing I'm going to talk about is selling a solution. And I pretty much touch on this on every workshop. It may not be as in depth, but I do like to touch on how you should be selling the solution, not only through your resume, through your phone screens, through your networking events. You should be selling some type of solution or some type of added value that you can bring to the organization, other than, hey, I'm a great fit, or yes, I've done this before. You should be able to solve a problem that they have. Then we're also going to talk about the follow-up and the feedback process, which is a component that many people lack. You know, it's either I apply to the job, don't hear from them, on to the next one. So we're going to also talk about following up and getting feedback. So when we go back to the basics, we want to do, when you do an introduction, you want to actually make sure that you're, when you do a warm introduction to the decision makers, you know, that may or may not be looking for your skill set, you have to understand that a good resume can be the icebreaker when you're reaching out to them. You want someone to know, you know, what you do, what you represent, and the things that you know, what you can bring to the table. We also want to talk about, you know, your resume is not only your first line of defense, but how is also your first impression. You know, this document is reviewed before the initial interview or even a conversation is requested. You know, your resume is your first impression employers have to determine whether you're even worth their time. You know, next thing, this is your marketing tool. This should not be your only marketing tool. And that's where a lot of candidates are running into, using their resume as the only thing they're using to market themselves. You know, a resume is used as your initial marketing tool. Again, this is your first line of defense. You want employers to get to know who you are. You want to give them insight into your experience and any solutions that you're able to provide. And also, your resume is a representation of you. You know, it represents you. The words you use, your attention to detail, your grammar, your overall professional experience, it plays some part in you as the job seeker. So they do look at this as a way it represents you, and it also represents what you can do, even down to the way you communicate. Another question we asked about chronological order, functional resumes, combination, and targeted resumes. One thing I do consider when I look at resumes, chronological resumes, again, these are the most widely used format. Think that this is what most HR or recruiters are comfortable looking at. You know, functional, combination, and target, you know, I call them a hybrid. That's what I call a combination resume, where you still keep your employment history in chronological order, but at the top or on the first page, you're highlighting your accomplishments. And the reason why I like the combination resume, because it draws the reader, HR manager, or recruiter, whoever's that decision maker, it compels them to further read and get the details on when and where you made these accomplishments. You know, versus having a chronological resume, and guess what? Your first job that they see may not be the most relevant one. You know, your most relevant one may be, you know, on the second page. But if they never make it to the second page, you know, they may not even see what you can offer to the organization. So that's why I do like a section that points out your accomplishments, you know, before you even get into your work history. Because once they see those accomplishments, they're going to start to analyze your resume to figure out, when did you do this? How did you do this? What company were you at when you did this? You know, that's when they're going to start looking a little bit closer to your resume. A targeted resume, again, that's much more customized. It actually specifically highlights the experience or a skill that you may have that's relevant to the job. So it may be a particular skill set that your whole resume represents. This usually is targeted towards like IT professionals and maybe someone that may be looking for a Java developer, so their whole resume may revolve around that particular skill set. It's very targeted, it's very niche. That's what a targeted resume is. A functional resume, of course, it focuses on your skills, experience, rather than your chronological work history. This particular type of format will probably be used or should be used or has been used by people that may have been out of work, may have gaps in their employment. It may be someone that, hey, I worked here, then I went to school, so they have, 3 to 4 year gap where they weren't employed full time, so they may use the format as a functional resume. But HR professionals are in tune why people use functional resumes. So if that's not the case for you, it may raise a red flag to say, okay, why isn't this person putting the dates, at their companies, or why are they just focusing on what they did rather than, being able to illustrate when they did it. So it can, of course, raise a red flag to employers if they think that, hey, this person may be a job hopper, or this person may not have held down a job for more than 6 or 12 months, and it may raise some concerns with them. So be very conscious when you do use a functional resume. This is pretty much a slide that I did share probably in a workshop, or I want to say in a Q&A session, probably 2 or 3 sessions back. It was pretty much the format for an ATS. And I did have questions about how you should format a resume if you're going to be submitting it to a ATS. If you're not familiar with it is, it's an applicant tracking system, or some companies, larger Fortune 500 or Fortune 100 companies, are using parsing software, which they're scanning your resumes for phrases, keywords, anything that they may have as a requirement or preference, and that's where they're actually scanning your resume against. And if you don't have a certain amount of keywords, and I don't know where they set the bar, I had that question asked as well. Does 60% of the resume have to have these keywords? We'll get by with only having 30%. I don't know where the companies are setting the bar for far as percentage wise, but you want to make sure that your resume is very, very keyword rich when it comes to the requirements of the job, especially when you start applying to these big companies. First of all, I want to bring to your attention, when you're doing a resume for an ATS, do not upload a PDF. Many people upload a PDF, and as you can see in the slide, a PDF is a no-go. And if anyone on the line understands why, take a PDF and convert it to a Word. I've done this. I have software that's done this, and sometimes I'll get a document that's converted from a PDF and I convert it to a Word document, or a text document is not even legible. You can't read it. The font's different. Some words are scrambled. The spacing's way off. You have some words that are not even there anymore because it couldn't pick it up. And this is the same way this software is doing. It's scanning this, and sometimes this parsing software cannot scan a PDF. So if it converts it to a Word document so it can be scanned, or maybe the person, after you upload it, maybe the HR department is, already converting these to Word documents, it's scanning it. And I've actually seen people that once they upload it, it'll show them what it looks like uploaded, but that's because that software has converted it to, the legible language it can read, and they say it's not even recognizable. So you want to stick with uploading either a text doc, which is a text file, a Word pad file, or a notebook file. And again, an ATS tailored resume is not for cosmetic purposes. It's not to look good. It's to get across what you can do. So I know a lot of people look at this text version resume and they're like, well, it doesn't look like my Word document or my PDF. That's not the point, because when it's scanning this information, it's not looking for a PDF. Next thing, I've seen resumes that have different graphs. They insert different They insert different either JPEGs or in a Word document or a PDF. It looks great because it shows an increase in something. It shows how you expanded something. It shows how sales increased over a particular time period. But the ATS can't read that. So if you're uploading a resume that has not only, and let me also put graphics, not only tables and graphs, but any type of graphics. And this goes for people that get their resume professionally done, with all this creative software. An ATS cannot read that, period. So if you're using something that has a lot of graphics in it or a lot of graphs or tables, you're being overlooked. I also recommend people have some type of keyword section. Again, this is not a resume that you're handing in to someone. Of course, if you hand it in to someone, that keyword section can look tacky. Understandable. But this is something that you want to upload, so when your resume is being parsed for keywords, you have a section just for keywords. The reason why I say that, people use keywords, but I guess for websites they'll call them meta tags, or they'll call them links or anything else. So when you type in a particular keyword on the internet, guess what? Their blog pops up or their website pops up because they've actually tagged it. That's the same thing you want to do if your ATS compatible resume is put some type of section in there. There are going to be keywords that you're getting directly from the job description. And you also want to use keywords that people will use if they're looking for you. What type of keywords would they use if they're looking for a person in your industry? Now, if I'm looking for an accountant, I may be looking for certifications linked to an accountant, a CPA. I may be looking for someone that, has an economic background, economics, so you want to make sure that you're using keywords not only from the actual job description, but keywords they would use to actually find someone that does what you do. You want to put your dates last. I'm seeing a lot of people, they also put their dates first. They'll put, 2010 to 2014 or 2009 to present, and they'll put that actually before the job title or before the company name. And guess what? Just like we read left to right, so does this parsing software. It's scanning your resume, and when it sees a sentence that starts with numbers, that also can set it off as, this is irrelevant, this is not relevant. So you want to make sure you're putting your dates last. And not only that, if someone's looking at your resume, are the dates really more relevant than the title you held? You want to make sure that you're capturing the most impressive, marketable piece of information first. And honestly, the dates aren't the most, important information that the employer needs to see. So you shouldn't have that the first thing that they see. So that's another reason why you should be putting that last. And you want to be very direct when you're writing the ATS resume. Cut out all the fluff. Cut out all the I call it candy coated sentences that people put in there, and we're going to actually talk about that as well. When you're putting an ATS related resume, you want to be as direct as possible. You want to use rich phrases, especially direct phrases that they're using in the job description. And people don't understand it. This is what they're scanning against. They're scanning against exactly what they're telling you that they want, exactly what they're telling you that's required. And they're looking for different patterns and different words that are used in this particular industry. And sometimes this is not, this isn't easy to just make up. If someone's in the industry, maybe engineering, maybe marketing, they have their own set of lingo, and that's what this particular software is picking up on. So this is some direct information on putting together an ATS compatible resume when you're uploading this to these different systems that are parsing your resume. And this is what you're up against when you do that. Let's talk about the 5 strategies of writing your resume. You want to definitely make sure that you're thinking big, you're doing your research, you're using some type of unique traits, you're providing solution, and you want to make sure that you're doing some type of proof and benefit. Let's look at some of the strategies and take us pretty much a step closer to your overall goals. The first thing I've said in many past workshops is you want to think like a consultant. This is the first step. When you're putting together your resume, you want to stop thinking like an unemployed, either underpaid employee that's looking for work. You want to start thinking big. You want to attract what you are. When you come across as unsure of your capabilities or skill set, employers, again, they pick up on this. What if you weren't a job seeker? What if you were a service provider? How would you market yourself? How would you approach writing your process? So you want to actually think like a consultant. What are your services that you offer? What type of value can you bring to the organization? And this is what that first step is. Take out the lingo of, I'm knowledgeable with this. As an expert, you should. Don't tell me that you're knowledgeable of it. How did you apply that knowledge? So you want to think more like a consultant, and this is something that you can exercise that you can do internally. When you're looking to hire someone, either it may be something, or, either you're hiring a contractor to put a roof on your house, or you're adding an extra bedroom, even if you're, looking up someone that can consult with buying your next vehicle. You ask specific questions, and you don't want to hear about how great they are. You want to hear, okay, how long you've been doing this? What have you done for other people in this same position, and why should I use your services? Those are the questions that you want to hear, or those are the answers that you want to hear to those questions, not about how great of a contractor I am. Guess what? So is everyone else, that I've reached out to. You want to have actual proof. So that's why I think that your first step should actually be think like a consultant. Your next step that you should be actually looking for is research the needs. Many candidates are so hung up on the requirements, and they neglect the needs of the organizations. What this means, research the needs and develop a strategy to convince the employer that you're the perfect candidate. You want to be the best possible solution for that company's existing plans. So you don't only want to fill this existing position that they have right now. You want to look at what they're struggling with, what they may be struggling with, not only this year, but what are some challenges they may have next quarter, or 2015. So you want to also research their needs. And this goes back to doing your homework with their competitors. Who are their main competitors? What makes them competitive? What is the company's weaknesses? What are their strengths? What gives them the advantage over their competitors? These are the things that you should also research, because when you're in this interview and you're having those phone screens, you can sound not only educated in your industry, but you can sound that you're educated about their organization. And it's more than just going to their website, looking at the About Us page. Anyone can do that. I'm more impressed if you can tell me about a article of interest, or a recent newsletter, or something that we're actually working on to roll out next quarter. That's what's going to impress me, because that gives me, this person has a little bit of insight about what we do. So you definitely want to make sure that you're doing your research. Next thing you want to look at is enhance your differentiators. How would you convince prospective employers to hire you and not your competition? What are your qualifiable accomplishments that make you different? And this goes back to the drawing board. What makes you different from everyone else that's applying for this job? Especially if they're putting in the job description what's required and you meet those requirements. Guess what? Everyone else that's interviewing for that particular job has those same requirements met. So if you have a particular degree or certification, best believe the person that you're interviewing against has those same credentials. So you have to figure out what's going to make me different from everyone else that may have the same credentials or maybe bringing the same hardcore skills to the table. And that's when it goes back to your solution. It goes back to your past experience with past employers. What have you done? What have you implemented in the past that's going to make you different from everyone else that's applying to this position or these positions? So you want to make sure that you're enhancing your differentiators, because this is what's going to set you apart again. This is what's going to set you apart against everyone else that's applying to those same particular jobs. The next thing you want to look at You want to be the solution. Past performance often serves as a potent indicator of future outcomes, which is your return on investment. How are your solution to past employers? What are you doing now that can potentially solve the organization's problem? So again, it goes back to being the solution and putting on that consultant hat. How am I going to solve this current organization's problem? How am I going to be of some type of value? And you want to be that solution. You want them to hire you because you're giving them insight that they cannot do without. Or you may have given them an idea that, what, we really would like you to implement that, and we would need you on the team to do so. So you definitely want to have some type of solution in place as well. Next thing you want to do is actually show evidence. Show some type of proof. It's one thing to say that you've done it, but you also want to be able to talk about the how. Stating that you increase sales or you improve the process is just that. It's a statement. You should be able to answer the how in your statements. The how makes this statement real, not just a cliche. Anyone can say that they double profits. You want to expand on how you did it. You don't have to go into an elaborate, 3-4 paragraph scenario, but you definitely want to state or give some type of insight on, yeah, I increased the sales, but this is something that I did, and this is how that I did it. This is how it was done. So you want to definitely make sure that you're putting some type of evidence in there to make it real. So that's something that you want to include in your resume as well. And once you finally have your resume done, this goes back to getting yourself in front of employers, getting yourself in front of those recruiters. You want to have some type of self-marketing strategy in place. This answers the questions on, how do I get in front of the employers? How do I get callbacks? You first want to know the product, and I know this sounds so, as a tangible product, but it's really pretty much the 4/5 P's in marketing. You want to know what you have to offer. You want to know what's the value in the marketplace, which means what's the demand. This actually coincides with the salary. Are the jobs that you're interviewing with, are you asking for too much? There's many people that are interviewing with these employers, and you may have a shot at the job, but you're asking for $20,000 more than what the company's going to pay for, and actually more than what the market demands. And they're not going to too much tell you that. They might go with the person that's, the salary's more reasonable, and just overlook you and send you that cliche email saying, hey, thank you for applying. We found someone that better fits our needs. So make sure that you're actually looking at what the marketplace is and making sure that the demand is there. And if it's not, what are you going to do to make yourself in demand? Which means that maybe you have to pick up a certification. Maybe you have to sharpen your skill set. There's a lot of people that were out of work, and been working at a particular job 5 or 10 years, and things change. Technology's changed. The entire requirements for that particular position has changed. But you haven't. And you're competing against people that's actually embraced the change and has those requirements in stone. You want to find ways, how are you going to promote yourself? What themes or messages are you going to try to get across professionally? And this goes back to, okay, besides the resume and cover letter, how are you going to promote what you do? Are you using LinkedIn to its fullest potential? Are you reaching out to decision makers directly, regardless if you know them or not, doing some type of warm introduction? That means, are you joining industry-related associations to rub elbows with people that do what you're looking to do in the industry, to find out who's the who? How are you positioning yourself? This goes back to how will you distribute yourself in the market? And I have spoken with job seekers time and time again, and the only way that they're positioning themselves, actually the only way they're promoting themselves, is applying to jobs online. No, that's the only way they're getting themselves out there. And if you're doing that, you're missing the big picture. And not to say you can't get a job that way. I've actually, I don't have it on this particular on this particular slide deck, but I had a percentage. I think it was, about 38% of people find their jobs through job boards, and it was like 62% that were finding their jobs either through referrals, either through industry related associations, either through word of mouth, either through social media outlets. It was different ways other people were finding their job, and it was 62% of different outlets that people weren't even capturing because they were so focused on that 38% that was dedicated to job boards. It's 62% that wasn't even tapped into. So you want to make sure that you're finding different ways to position yourself out here. So again, we actually look at your self-marketing strategy, your professional service, your service. This is an activity that I actually have people do on their own. And if you have any type of scrap paper, if you have a pencil and paper nearby, this is something that's going to actually help you put together your resume, actually put together your cover letter as well, because your cover letter is going to be that warm introduction. Even this can be something that you can use to send that email to that hiring manager to grab their attention to even look at that resume that you attached. The first thing you want to ask or be able to write down is describe your professional abilities in one sentence. And the reason why I say one sentence, in 2014, people have very, very low attention spans. Now, if you send me an email that's 3 or 4 paragraphs long and I don't know you, more likely people are going to delete it. They're going to like, who is this? They might read the first or second sentence and they might put it in their email to read later, or guess what? It might just get deleted on demand. So you want to be able to sum up your professional abilities in one sentence. You want to have your accomplishments. If you're able to write this down, write out your 5 top accomplishments. Why I say separate it by 5 bullet points, because that's going to be something that's going to catch their eye. And I think that bullet point format is much more readable and much more digestible than having to pick apart what you did in paragraph format. And I've said this before, why would you want your most marketable asset to be hidden in paragraph 3? Someone may not even read it down to paragraph 3. So you definitely want to make sure that you're putting your accomplishments in some type of format that people can be drawn to. And people are more drawn to reading bullet point in a format or something that's numbered. And if you don't believe me, take a look at all the blogs that are out there. There's always the top 10 this, the top 5 this, the top 8 this. When you click on that blog, it's separated by bullet point format. It's an easier read. Next thing I want you to write down is your differentiators. What makes you competitive from everyone else? If you're applying to a particular position online and you read the requirements, what's going to make you different from everyone else that's actually applying to that job? If you don't know what other people look like, what I mean, like if you don't know what their professional background will look like, go to that company's page. You can use LinkedIn to go to that company's page. And I'm just going to throw a title out there. Say you're applying to be a marketing manager in Phoenix, Arizona. For, let's say, marketing manager, Phoenix, Arizona, for what's hot right now, startup, Uber. And if you don't know what Uber is, that's they're dominating the transportation industry. Transportation on demand. They're pretty much going to replace taxis. So say that you want to do that. What you would do is go to their company website on LinkedIn. Click it, type in Uber, go to the company. You'll actually look at employees that work there. And if you go to their company website, they'll give you, employees that work here, and they'll give you a number. You'll click on that and you'll see all the employees that work there. you're in Phoenix, Arizona, you even have to look in Phoenix, Arizona, because that's the vacancy. You may want to look at their base that may, I don't know, think they're based out of San Francisco. You may say, well, let me take a look at the marketing manager in San Francisco. So you'll type in, under Uber, you'll type in location, San Francisco, California, job title, marketing manager, and it'll pop up the marketing manager that's based in, San Francisco, California. Click on that, click on that person. Maybe it's Jane. I'm going to Jane Doe. Jane Doe is the marketing manager there. Look at what she brought to the table. Whatever she brought to the table got her hired. Look at the past companies she worked with. Uber's a startup. How much background does she have with startup companies? Or did she work for Fortune 500 companies? What type of certifications did she bring to the table? Look at her connections. Who is she connected to? What organizations is she a part of? Is she part of the AMA, American Marketing Association? So you can compare yourself and see how you measure up to everyone else that's currently working for the company. And I think that's the best, quote unquote measuring stick, because guess what? They already work there. They already got the job. So why not measure yourself against someone that's already been employed? And really write down, what makes you competitive? What can you bring to the table? And the next thing I want you to write down, and how do you plan to get in front of decision makers? And I should have put in parentheses outside of applying online. So outside of applying online, how do you plan to get yourself in front of decision makers? And when you put this together, you can actually put together a marketing plan and execute it. And then when an employer asks you questions about your past, some of your accomplishments, why should I hire you? You can point to, this is what differentiates me between everyone else. These are my accomplishments. This is what I do. And this is the solution I can bring to your organization. And a step-by-step with this would be your action or topic. Make sure that you're having leading words that, suggest some type of movement, ownership. You want to have some type of impact. What impact did your action have on the organization? What value did you bring? Have some type of quantitative data. Make sure that you have some type of metrics in place. Make sure they're relevant, they're measurable. And I always say, you really can't manage what you can't measure. I don't know if you heard that quote before, but and it's reality. And you don't have to be in a position that deals with numbers, because most people, when they think of quantitative data, they think of sales or they think of marketing. And you don't understand how what you do can save an organization time. I tell that all the time with IT people, even down to a support level position. How fast you close a ticket reflects on the reputation of that company. How fast you're able to fix a bug, shows how proficient that organization is. So it doesn't always have to be something that deals with money. It can be time. I know for people in healthcare, billing and medical, getting, if you're in the insurance department, filing claims, what's your turnaround time? Are you streamlining the process that are getting these files or these claims closed faster? So it doesn't always have to be about money, or it doesn't always have to be about sales. It can be about a process. So you want to look at some type of quantitative data. That's very important to employers. You want to have a benefit. That goes down to benefit statements. Should be something that's tangible. Like I said, percentage of increase or decrease. It may be a revenue, because guess what? If you're closing tickets fast, and these people are happy with their service, they may be adding on things for their product. Hey, this software is great. My bug was fixed. Now I'm buying this, or now I'm doing this. But what happened there? You still with me? I think something just clicked. So are you able to see still be able to see my screen? Yeah. I don't know, it just clicked off for a reason. Okay, selling a solution. Pretty much when you sell a solution, you want to be an expert. You want to be very specific, develop some type of action plan, ask for referrals, and know your numbers. And when you're selling a solution, I'm going to touch on this briefly because I know that we're actually running out of time. You want to make sure that you're putting some type of action plan in place. And if anyone's listened to my past workshops, I call it the 3-6-9 month plan. Some people use a 30, 60, 90-day plan. I tell to me, that's not realistic. You really can't put something together and show value in the first 30 days, even 60 days or 90 days of employment. So to make it more realistic, I think the first 3 months, 6 months, and 9 months will be more reachable or attainable goals. So when you put together a plan, and this goes back to researching the company, researching the role that you will have, and how that will play in the department's needs, and putting a plan of action together on what the company expects from you and what you can deliver in the first 3 months, what you can deliver in the first 6 months, and what you can deliver in the first 9 months. And once you're able to put down what you can deliver, you want to also show what value it's going to bring the organization. What value are you going to bring in the first 3 months from doing or meeting those expectations? What are you going to bring in the first 6 months, when meeting or exceeding those expectations, and what value you're going to bring in those first 9 months after exceeding or meeting those expectations. And that question can be answered when you have that interview and they tell you exactly what they expect. What part do you play in that particular department? What do they want to see from you in the first, 30, 60, 90 days or the first year? And if they don't tell you, you should be asking it. What's the expectations in the first year? What are you trying to resolve in the first 2 quarters? And from those answers that they give you, you're able to put together a plan that you can leave them with, in addition to your resume. And I can guarantee you no one else is leaving them a actual plan of action when they have that resume. That means not only have you done your homework, you're showing how you can bring value. And the things that you put in your action plan should be obtainable, and they all should be something that you've somehow achieved at past organizations. And the reason why I say that, the best way to look at how you can do it is how you have done it. And if you can show that, yes, this is obtainable, I can do this because I've done it before, that's a realistic goal. They don't just want something that you put down that's going to be fluff. They want to make sure that you actually can achieve that. And again, goes back to positioning yourself, and we've talked about this. Besides applying online, what are you currently doing to sell your solution? What value can you bring to potential employers? You want to be very specific, create a niche, build upon your accomplishments. How can you make or save potential employers time or money? And also the delivery. How do you plan to deliver your message verbally? What accomplishment will you discuss to keep the employer's attention? So these are things that you want to look for. You want to be an expert, a problem solver, some type of trailblazer, and you want to be a guru at what you do. Buzzwords that people use, these are knowledge of, optimize. These are the buzzwords that people use. Nothing's wrong with buzzwords. You definitely want to make sure they're just not fillers. Many people are using buzzwords as fillers, and they become empty sentences. And you can see on the next slide how this is the case. Someone can say, I was a motivated sales manager with a stellar record of consistently exceeding sale targets. And that alone sounds like hey, this person's great. Versus you can use these same quote unquote buzzwords, but this is actually adding some type of quantitative data that's going to have an impact on the reader. I'm pretty much a tenacious sales manager with a verifiable track record that consistently exceeded sales targets by 20% and improves market share by 33%. You actually have some tangible numbers versus just making an empty statement. And there's a lot of resumes that just have empty statements. So I wanted to show the difference between how you can use buzzwords to your advantage. But if you are going to use these quote-unquote buzzwords, you want to make sure that you're following them with impact statements. And it goes back to the method I use, CAR. I use the CAR method, which is your conflict, your action, and your resolution. Your follow-up. When you're sending your resumes and you want to have some type of follow-up plan, I usually call it the 3-strike rule. Say if you have an interview, my first form of contact after an interview, again, is a thank you note. When I say a thank you note, we're not talking about a thank you email, an actual note that you put in the mail. And so that's my first form of communication, which is written communication. Second form of communication will be electronic form, which can be email. You'll follow up in an email recapping either an interview or a conversation or what you applied to. It goes back to when I asked you to write down those your accomplishments, what value you're bringing to the table. You want to make sure that you are actually entering this in the emails that you're sending. What drives HR crazy, or even a recruiter crazy, is when you're just sending a 2-sentence email asking for a status update, versus, inquiring not only about a status update, but actually talking about or mentioning something that in the interview that you may have found interesting, and laying out some groundwork on, why they should be reaching back out to you. And that goes back to your accomplishments and your solutions. Let's look at the contact. How are you currently staying in contact with potential employers? You want to make sure that you're getting some type of confirmation. Say if a recruiter's reaching out to you, they ask you to send, for your resume. And then they set up a phone screen, hey, send me your resume and we'll set up some time Thursday to talk. So you send them your resume and you shoot for a time Thursday at 10 o'clock. And after you have that screening call, how are you following up with the employer after applying to open position? Are you confirming the next steps? So once you get off that phone call, are you putting some type of deadline on the next time you'll speak with them or hear from them? And I know some people are asking that, or who they may be interviewing with, if you could get names. Hey, the next steps are this. Oh, it is, who would I be interviewing with the next time? Believe it or not, many people will give you a name. Oh, the next step, you're going to be talking to Bill in, XYZ department. Try to get a first and last name. So that way, if you don't hear from the recruiter, you know who Bill is. You may want to reach out to Bill and say, hey, I spoke with so-and-so, drop the recruiter's name, and, was looking forward to speaking with you. How can we go ahead and move forward in the hiring process, or even ask for a status update? You never know. Some of these positions that you're interviewing for may be suddenly put on hold. It's happened. Oh, yeah, we were interviewing, but we're putting it on hold until next quarter. Oh, yeah, we're going to still interview, but they're not going to make a decision till next year. So you may be sitting on pins and needles waiting to hear back from a position that's been put on hold. Also ask for referrals, especially if you're speaking with people that are telling you no. I know you reach out to people on LinkedIn, or you may be rubbing elbows with people in these associations. You're trying to create a network, and they may, politely and professionally pretty much telling you, hey, I can't help, my hands are tied. Ask for a referral. If you can't help, do you know someone that can? No, I understand that you may not have any openings, but do you know any organizations that may be looking for my skill set? You'll be amazed how many people they'll give to you. Because when someone tells you no, they feel compelled to follow up with something that can help. No, I can't help you, but hey, reach out to so-and-so. Most people will at least try to find a way to soften that no, or soften, I call it that blow, because that no is kind of like a blow to you. You're like, oh, you can't help. And most people, I'm not saying all, there are some out there that say no and won't answer the phone anymore after you call them, but majority of people will find some outlet to give to you to say, hey, I can't help you, but maybe so-and-so can. Make sure you're getting some type of referrals and getting those no's to lead you to a yes. And it falls back to what feedback have you been receiving from employers following the interview process. And I know some people, especially if you're applying to these huge companies, the feedback that you may be getting is like I said, a cliche email, a auto respond email. And I understand it's hard to, there's a lot of red tape involved when you're trying to reach out to these companies that are in these huge, or these huge Fortune 500 companies, and feedback may be very hard to get, so, but if you can try to get some feedback, even if it's something that you don't want to hear, and maybe not even from the direct recruiter or the direct, HR department. Many people, they're watching what they say, they don't want to be accused of, anything that may have been illegal in the hiring process. So many people keep their comments or feedback brief and short, but maybe you want to actually reach out to someone that can do a mock interview with you. That's a totally neutral party. Now, it may be something that you may not be doing correctly in the interview process. Are you freezing up? Do not sound confident. So you might want to reach out to a neutral party. Hey, can we do a mock interview together? Give me your honest overview on how I did. And get honest feedback from somebody that, may not be the employer, just to get some insight on some things you may be doing wrong. So actually, this is actually over. This is for June and July. We're now in September, but these were some workshops that we are actually doing. These are ongoing workshops, so you don't have to actually look at those. We have to repost them. They're recordings now, so we're going to actually put these up as recordings if you do want to take advantage of some of the workshops that we have in actual recording. This is my contact information. It's now 8 o'clock. I'm going to open up the line. If you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them. If you do want to have a one-on-one, you can go directly to the website and book a phone appointment. It's on the home page. You scroll halfway down and it says book a phone appointment, and you can schedule a time to speak one-on-one. More than happy to make myself available at those times. And I'm going to open the line up to see if you have any questions out there. I said, how should you, one question is, how should I list the keyword section in the ATS resume? How you would list it would be like at the very bottom. I would have like a, just a section, like, how you at the top when you do your format of the resume, you either have some type of career profile, then you have, you may have your accomplishments, or you may start out with your professional experience, then you go down, I don't know how some people do it. Some people may put their education first or last, technical skills. You want to make sure your keywords are the very last thing. You don't even have to label as keywords. It'll just be a section where you'll just have keywords there. You can label it as keywords, but it would be at the very bottom, pretty much closing your resume out. And that's how you actually list the keywords. And again, this is not something, this is a resume you would use strictly to upload. So it's not like you would use this to hand to a recruiter or HR personnel. So the last thing you want to have is like a keyword section. It can be after your education, it can be after your professional training, or I know some people have technical skills. Underneath that, you should have a section where you may have 3 to 6 lines of just straight keywords. And I know, cosmetically it may look crazy, because if you look at it, you have everything listed, and at the bottom you have just a whole, almost a ramble of keywords, but that's how it would look when you upload it. And it actually scan that, and it'll pick up on those keywords that you have at the bottom. So I hope that was able to answer that question. Okay, I don't see any more questions. Is there a website or tool that enhances the chances of being called up for interviews? Is there a website or tool that enhances the chances of being called up for interviews? There's not a website that I know of. If I did, everyone would know about it. So it's no website or anything that you can go to that's going to increase your chances. I think the best thing you can do is apply and then just follow up or reach out. And that again is using that social media, finding out who's in the recruiting process, especially if you're applying to jobs on LinkedIn. Sometimes they have the person that actually posts the job visible. You know, you don't have to reach out to them immediately. Or it's the one that you could just read. You said I meant a personal website. Oh, getting yourself a personal website. Yes. Yes. I've actually seen people use professional or quote unquote personal websites in lieu of their resume and also in addition to their resume. And I think that's a perfect match to do that. Yes, I have seen that. That people do that. Does it increase the chances? I don't think it decreases them. I think that if you're able to put it in electronic format, people are more inclined to come across your website, you know, reach out to you, and then you're indexed in Google as well. You know, I mean, some people put their first and last name.com or first.lastname.com, have their own personal website. It's pretty much like an online portfolio. Another thing that I don't know if anyone knows about this, I actually have it under a blog on my website called Cool Job Seeker Tools, and one of them I did mention was about.me. You know, that's ABOUT.me, and it's a nice little snapshot of a personal resume. It's a free to create an account. I think you have to pay if you want a quote unquote customized URL. But I've actually seen people put together an about.me website, and they put all their little links in there. You know, they'll link up their portfolios in there, especially if they're in a market that requires to show some type of professional achievement or portfolio. And it was a great online presence in addition to their resume. Not to say it replaced their resume, but it definitely differentiated them against everyone else that didn't know that applied. They didn't have one. And I don't know if you noticed, many, you know, employers are now even putting that field in their website, because they're starting to realize that people are now, you know, getting and creating their own personal websites, you know, all about them. So I do think there is a way to do that, and I think it will differentiate you as well. I do see another question. This could be used in place to bring my professional accomplishments. Definitely. And again, check out about.me, or check out personal websites. And if you don't, if you also want to look, I know people that are big on personal websites, or people that are in graphic design, or people that are in IT. Tell you the truth, you can go on LinkedIn and just look up graphic design, or look up UX developer, and just click on someone's random site on LinkedIn profile, and I can guarantee you they're going to have a personalized website in there. If you go under contact, they have a personalized website. Most of them do, where you can click and check out their professional portfolio. But I'm starting to see it mainstream with any professional now. They're actually making a quote-unquote virtual resume. I think it's pretty cool. Next one I have is it seems like as if it would take forever to apply for one job. How can we streamline the resume to make it appealing for most jobs? Does that make any sense? Yes, and to be honest with you, if you're applying to positions that are similar, and you're applying to a industry, or one industry, or one type of position across the board, it shouldn't take forever. And I'll use an example of me. I'm a recruiter or a headhunter, or director of recruiting, or whatever title you want to give it. I would apply to nothing but recruiting jobs. You know, my resume would not change from company to company, other than if I saw, you know, a particular need, or it came across a particular skill set that they were demanding or requesting or requiring, I would tailor it to that. But in general, my skill set wouldn't change, because I'm applying to what I'm a guru at, you know, which is recruiting. Why this takes forever for some people is because they're applying to things that may not be their niche. What I mean by that is I can do this, but I also can do that. You know, I can be a recruiter, but I can also be a human resource director or a human resource manager. Believe it or not, they're different. You know, why? Because, I'm great at recruiting, but I'm not the best at employer relations. I'm not the best at submitting workman's comp. That's not what I do. But guess what? That's what a human resource manager does. So now I have to tailor my resume towards this human resource manager position that's really not what I'm an expert in. And I'm seeing a lot of people are doing that, which makes it harder than what it is, because now you have to find a way to compensate for the skill set that you don't have. So you want to make sure that you're applying to things that that, like you said, are across the board, that will make the applying seamless, that you can use this resume for multiple positions and you don't have to keep having to update it and keep putting new skill sets in it because they're asking for different things. So that's one way I look at it as well. I'm seeing a lot of people not staying focused and applying to 3 and 4 different industries, and they're wondering why it takes so long to apply to all these jobs, because you're applying to jobs that really aren't your niche or really aren't what you are a guru at, if that makes sense. It says, is a cover letter required for every job you apply for? I would definitely include a cover letter. I know that some positions make it optional. I definitely would use one, especially if they ask for one. That just falls under the scope of can you follow directions, so I definitely would use one. But is it necessary or required? I wouldn't say it would be required, but for you I would make it a requirement, because you still want that introduction. A cover letter is a warm introduction of yourself, and it pretty much expands on what your resume is detailing, which means that I know some people that include in their resume or include in their cover letter things that they couldn't fit in their resume. They use that cover letter as an opportunity to expand on things they may only touch on briefly in their resume. So you want to use your resume as to your advantage. It's not just a, hey, I'm qualified and here's why. You should actually be using it as a way to market yourself and get them or compel them to review your resume in further detail. So I wouldn't say it's required, but I definitely will use it to my advantage. So, are there any more questions at all? I want to thank everyone for joining me tonight. You have been very great. At the end of this workshop, there is a survey. Please take the survey. That lets me know how the Q&A sessions apply to you, how we can better our best, topics that you'd like to cover in the future. If you missed any part of this or want to share this with anyone, you can check out our YouTube channel and share that, or review it yourself. Check out our past workshops that we've done in the past on different topics. I actually add the questions in the description, so that way you won't have to look at the entire video and not know what it's about. You can actually click on the video, look at the description, look at the questions that we're going to cover, and decide whether or not if it's a video that you want to look at. So I make sure I put that in there as well. Thank you for your time. Please complete the survey, and we do this every Monday from 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Have a great night.